Well, hey, how y'all doing out there today? Listen, I'm always using the term lawbreaker, and it doesn't mean anything criminal. It means what it says, a lawbreaker. Uh, I think that's where we need to define laws and what they are. Now, most of us know the three basic laws. We have God's law. That's to most people, that's the supreme law. This supposedly was passed down from us from Moses, I guess, for the Christians and Hebrews. And I don't know, there's laws that God had. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not covet. Thou shalt put nobody before me and have a day for me. There's about four laws for God alone. But yeah, we have the Ten Commandments and some other things from the Bible or from our religion that tell us what God intends for us to do with our lives and the punishment for that. And then you got man's law, of course. Man's law is what we're living by today. Most of them are compliance laws. They're only laws and they're only in effect because we comply to them. We fear we'll get a ticket. We fear we'll go to jail. We fear we'll be kidnapped and incarcerated or maybe even put to death. Um, Man's laws reach all the way from God's law, like thou shalt not kill and thou shalt not steal. But then it goes to like thou shalt not fish without a license and dumb things. As I said, they're laws of compliance. They're put in place to control you. You may think that these laws were put in place for your safety, but look at where man's laws normally lean to when they're covering somebody's ass. Let's say, for instance, it's normally corporate law. It normally fits super rich people. Yeah, some laws benefit us. I mean, we shouldn't be killing each other and we shouldn't be stealing each other, but it pretty much benefits people that are in better shape in this society than us. So there you go for man's laws, and they always seem to match society and what's going on in the society. And then you have, of course, the only law that I will ever pay attention to: natural law. Water's wet, fire burns. We have to have air to breathe. Most of the time, the sky is blue and flowers grow around us. Bees have to move around. These are natural laws. Um, we have to procreate to carry on our species. We have to eat to live. We have to eat good things to live. Those are natural laws. The laws you can't change. Gravity. Um, like I said, just any of the laws of nature, the things you see go on around you that have no paperwork tied to them. It's just that way. There's no way you can stop it. So there's basically the three kind of laws that we have in our lives. Now, um, I, as I said before, God's law and man's law seem to match up on a few things. So I'll use one of their laws: "Thou shalt not kill." And I'm gonna show you the difference in the laws and in the way that you've been lied to, in the way that they change. That two, man's law and God's law, change all the time, but natural law never changes. All right, let's just take murder for instance. You kill somebody. Well, in God's law, long time ago, it used to be eye for an eye, and whether maybe that was an accident or not, you kill my firstborn son, I'm going to kill your firstborn son. No, it was eye for an eye. It was very rough. It was definitely a payment for taking another life, um, even if it was justified sometimes, or even if it was an accident. It had to be paid with another life. But then as religion went on and God's law changed, then it was turn the other cheek. Hey, somebody kills your firstborn son, you forgive them, and you ask God to forgive them and to forgive their sins. You ask for the strength of Christ, or you ask for the strength of God to get you through the pain of somebody that was killed. But you don't get the eye for an eye no more. Now it's turn the other cheek. Um, that's kind of how God's law changed. Kind of like, wow, it went from justice, real true justice, um, from a God that created all and said do not kill, or you will, your eye for an eye, to turn the other cheek. Wow, so you can just go around and kill everybody as long as you ask for forgiveness according to God's law. Now that's just how it reads. I don't know how it really is because I don't believe in these things. I'm just actually, or I don't live by them. I actually am. I'm just telling you about them to show you the difference. So now we take man's view on murder. Well, wow. I mean, we got murder one, murder two, manslaughter, vehicular manslaughter, accidental death. I mean, man's law covers killing another human being in so many aspects. Um, but a while back when you killed somebody, no matter for what reason, you did go to prison, or just because you had a good lawyer, you couldn't get out of it. It didn't matter if it was a crime of passion or a contemplated murder where you just went out and killed somebody consciously. Um, you face the same penalty. And as man's laws changed and they've added this, like you can kill somebody with a firearm and it's a different charge, and or you can kill somebody and you were on drugs and it's a different charge. Or you can see it's all different. But when you look at the like I said, as the years goes by, they found more and more excuses because more and more lawyers have set more and more precedents by manipulating more and more of man's laws, like the murder law, and getting their clients off, or getting them less time, or not giving them the death penalty. But at one time it was eye for an eye, and now it's pay your price and get out. And some people don't even go. Some people even have an excuse. So that's how man's law changed with murder. Um, Along with other things. I mean, as bad as I hate to say it, some things were legal back in the day and they're illegal today as well. You can take slavery, you can take abortion, you can take women's rights. All these things with man's law change as man changes, and that's what I'm saying. Now, let's take murder with natural law. Well, I don't actually believe that there's any murder in nature. Uh, Even when a cat plays with its food, uh, for the most part, it's even given a gift to its master, or it's going to eat it. Um, there's no murder in the animal kingdom. There's no murder in nature. What it is there's fighting to the death, survival of the fittest. Yes, the strongest male fights for the right to breed with the female, so the strongest of that breed goes on. But never have you seen a bull or a silverback ape gorilla in the woods ever kill another gorilla just to kill him. They never kill anything just to kill him. There was even a leopard once that had killed a chimpanzee and was eating it, and noticed that it was a mama chimpanzee. So it left the mama chimpanzee and it went back up in the tree, and it laid on the limb with the baby chimpanzee until the baby chimpanzee finally died from exposure and not being able to suckle or have food. It wasn't a killer, it was eating. The only death in natural law is the fact that we're all going to be born, we live, and we die. In natural law, when you kill something else, it was done for a reason. It was done for food. It was done for protection. It was done to procreate. It was done to be the strongest, not to be the most evil, not to control the world. No. So there's your difference in just that one law. Murder, how it's looked at by your God, how it's looked at by your government, and how it's looked at by your Mother Earth. It really is that simple. But the point is that, especially over the last 40 to 50 years, God's law and man's law, because natural law is never going to change, so I can just take this one out of here. God's law and man's law have been completely twisted and turned to completely control you, to give you doubt in everything else, especially the natural world, especially the things natural about you and yourself. Man's law have you bound and tied down, as does God's law. God's law says, be like his people, or you burn in hell forever. Man's law says, get inside of society and do what we say with our law, or we'll imprison you forever. You see what I'm saying? They have penalties. This law, natural law, you step out here and you don't comply or coexist with natural law, you'll die. You'll die very quickly. And you'll die very horribly, because it's not exposure is a hell of a way to go, y'all. And but it's there, it's real, and it's there that way all the time. When a volcano blows, lava's hot, and it will burn you to death. When thunderstorms come up, you can be hit by lightning. You will get wet. You will have wind blow in your face. You will need shelter. These are the things of natural law that you can't take away from this planet. But we could always coexist with it, knowing it's there. It's when we stop and took guidelines and complied to a creator that created us to live, but then told us how to live. What? And ain't it funny that the way the creator supposedly, or God, supposedly told us how to live, it's obeying man. So, but he created all men. So did he create some to be the leader and some to be the killer? No, no, we're taught things. We find our place. We do find our place in society, some of us. Some of us do it very easily. We go through the school system. We forget this law. We forget natural law. And we cling on to man's system until finally man doesn't serve us, or society doesn't serve us in some kind of way, and then you see the light. Then you see the lie that you were living. The fact that laws kept you in place, tax laws, so you had to work. Laws, the financial laws, of man, the part of man's laws. You basically, to get along, you have to be in the system. So you have a bank account, you have a credit card, you have a house payment, a car payment. You got all these things, and you're legally bound to do it because you put your signature on it. Matter of fact, with man's law, you're not the only person with your name. When you were born, they made a straw man. And they figured, hell, if you couldn't work or if you couldn't do anything, this straw man could do it for you. Look on your driver's license. Look on your birth certificate. Look on your Social Security card. That's not you. That's man's straw man version of you. We've talked about this before. So look up the straw man. When your name's all in capital letters, that has nothing to do with you. You're legally bound to what that name says and that Social Security number says. You're bound by their financial law. You're bound by their um, statute law or complying laws, laws of compliance, laws of consent, consensual laws. We didn't say no, so that must mean yes. That's how a lot of laws get into place. That's how a lot of, especially the federal laws, get into place. Um, Once again, God's law, obey or die in hell and forever, a complete separation from God, who actually created you to do the one thing, to live. I do believe now that we are separated from the animals. I do believe as human beings. I'm not an anarchist, by the way, y'all. I do believe in the true meaning of anarchy, which means to live without government. But I do believe in community. I do believe in living within small tribes that work with other tribes as a big collective on a big super giant planet that we all need to get along in and coexist on. I believe in barter and trade and, like I said, community. Community. Each community being able to be who they are. By being bound by natural law and living within natural law, they can make guidelines within their community, within their tribe. This doesn't have to be pushed on all the other communities or all the other tribes. It's just within that. So I do believe in a form of tribal law, community law that applies. I do not believe that our law system by man in the United States is fair at all. It should be the other way around. Federal law should not be Trump law, and excuse the play on the words, but it shouldn't be the number one law of the land, and then state law, and then county law, and then city law, and then town law, and then neighborhood law. No, it should be what goes on in your neighborhood. That should be the number one law, and then your city, and then your county, and then your state law. And then if there's anything left that isn't covered in those laws, then maybe the federal government was supposed to be there to take up for the man that kind of got booted out of all those other places. But no, that ain't how it turned out. Somehow we let them turn the tables on us, and now they run the show. They make the laws. And look, there's another fine example of how man's laws are a joke and very hypocritical. The 10 square miles we call Washington, D.C., and the whole District of Columbia that surrounds it has recreational legal marijuana. Cannabis, hemp, whatever you want. Gummies, you can go to a store and buy it. But the rest of the nation has to go by the federal government, D.C.'s law of the land that says marijuana is a felony and is illegal, and you can't grow it, and you can't transport it, you can't hold it, you can't own it, you can't sell it. But they do in D.C. There's your man's law. There's your man's law. I'll tell you something else too about God's law, and you best pay very close attention to this, because whether or not I believe in judgment, you do, and you may face one. And when you do, are you going to explain to your creator? Are you going to explain to your God your inactivity, or how you listen to God's law and you knew somewhere deep inside of you that that was coming from man, that it was just a safe thing from your young indoctrination and your brainwashing into believing that there was one God and one man that became a God that could save you forever. But if you don't do what he says, you'll burn in hell. You just wasted your whole life in servitude to probably one of the worst lies you could have ever been told. God gave you free will to live. You have free will to live whether it was given to you or not. But those laws keep you down and keep you from living. Man's law keep you down and keep you from living. Natural law is the only place you can live and coexist with the law as it is. It's the unchangeable law. It's a unwritten law. It's the law that you learn from your first conscious thought as a little kid, little baby, all the way up until you're about 10, 12 years old, but especially around the ages of 3 to 5, where you take in all your information. That's when you take in natural law. That's when I took in natural law. That's when I learned it. That's when I learned I touched something hot, it would burn me. That's when I learned if I didn't put on a coat when I went outside and it was cold, I'd get chilly. If I didn't have something over my head, I'd get wet if it was raining. When that lightning struck a tree, it killed it. I saw these things as a child, and those laws stuck with me. I can't forget those. They're not written down. They're bound into my DNA, my makeup, who I am. I experienced these laws. I know these laws because I have to know them. It's how I live. That my body takes breath for me. My heart pumps blood for me. That's natural law. So when you're hearing me say lawbreaker or you hear people on TV and they're like, oh, these guys are breaking all these laws. I think the worst law you could ever break would be the law that keeps you from living yourself. In other words, I think it wouldn't be breaking laws. It would be, I think, complying to the laws we have today. The laws that man has and the laws that whatever, that God showed you, keep you from living a healthy, pure, and free, independent life. It keeps you a slave. It keeps you a servant. And some of you can say, hey, I'd rather be a servant to God than be a servant to man. But to be a servant to God, didn't the Bible tell you to obey the government because God put them in there? Y'all know that was not God's law. That's not God saying that. That wasn't Jesus saying that. That was King James saying that. Give unto Caesar what's due to Caesar. That's pay to man. Be a tax slave. That's what that law is telling you to do. Before I get upset, I don't want to get upset because this is actually a very beautiful awakening for you. Man's law and God's law exist because you comply to it and don't live. Natural law is never going to go away, and you're alive because it exists. You are alive because natural law exists, period. You're not alive because God's law. You're not alive because of man's law. You're only alive and living and breathing every day because of natural law. So think about that. Be serious about some of these things way beyond what you're learning, but way beyond what you're being told. This is what I mean by don't live in fear. This is what I mean when I say think and research. I'm not asking you to drop anything you believe. And I have a brother out there, and his initials are MM. I'm not going to call you out, brother, but you know who you are, and you're going to get on to me. I am not denying the Creator. I am not denying God. I am not denying any of that. I am saying that I don't believe in that book, Control Tool, King James Bible you were given. I don't believe in any of those books that any of you read that God wrote a single word in it. I believe that he made natural law, she made natural law, the Creator made natural law, and we have to live by it. And instead of living by it and coexisting with it, we destroy it with man's law and God's law. With your fracking rigs, with your cars, with your buildings, with everything that you do. So, no. I'm not condemning it. I'm asking you to look at it, and I'm asking you why you comply to it. I'm asking you why you obey God and man. Or if you even believe that those laws are real, or if they're just consensual guidelines that you comply to. That's what I want you to think about, especially you, that one brother I'm talking to. Any of you hardcore, if you're so extreme in your beliefs that you can't accept anything else, then you're an extremist. And what have we been saying all along? We got a little too much extremism going on right now. And we're going to talk about that later. Right now, I want you to just look around. It's a beautiful, written, natural law behind me. Everything behind me, too, will either heal or make you feel better, or it's just beautiful to look at. Think about that, too. I love y'all. And you're not legally bound to love me, but I hope you love me back. And you're also not legally bound to think and you're not legally bound to be free, but I ask you to do those in return. Be free, live free, and die living. And by all means, don't live in fear. I love you. Obey that law, the law of love. That's probably one, I think, before I get off here, I think the law of love, which there is no law. There is no law of love. I'm just putting it out there. But if there was, that would be the one that's the most easiest to comply to, because loving others and appreciating them and respecting them for who they are, your brothers and your sisters, that should be the only law that we go by. Love and respect. Mutual kindness. There you go. Peace. Don't live in fear.